All set?
1 second. It's still okay. We are all set.
And very good. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Whatcom County Fire Protection District Number 4 Board of Commissioners meeting on September 23rd, 2024. It's 12:01. So I'll call us to order and we'll begin with a roll call. I'm Tim Johnson, Commissioner.
Steve Cooley, Commissioner.
Mark Land, Commissioner.
Jason Mannerbean, Fire Chief.
Very good. And Chair Cooley has asked me to lead us through the meeting today, so I'll do my best to do that, and I'll rely on my fellow commissioners to keep me in my lane. We are going to deviate a little bit from our agenda in the interest of letting Chief Hewitt get back to business. We're going to start today with a discussion with Chief Hewitt about the Britton Road Northern Heights annexation. So why don't we kick off with that?
All right. Would you guys like me to kind of start off with where we're at? And then I'll be happy to answer any questions. But so yeah, earlier this year, the city council initiated the, well, I should say earlier this year, citizens brought a petition to the city council requesting to be annexed. That annexation area roughly is what's left of East McLeod over to Britton Road and then north up around Station 12. So it's kind of and for the most part, it goes down Britton Road, but there's a couple of, I think there's a couple of small parcels on the east side of Britton Road that were also included in there. So the citizens brought that petition to the city council. The city council chose to initiate that process. And what that means when the city council initiates the process, it basically, they are instructing our planning department to review the petition, ensure that it's valid, that we have enough community members that signed on to the petition. And then that starts what I'll call a deep dive by the planning department into looking at the cost of that annexation. So initiation does not mean that the city is going to annex anything. It just means that they gave direction, council gave direction to city staff to take a deep look at all the finances involved, what are the impacts going to be, and that kind of process. So we go through that deep dive, and at some point, planning department will generate a report that they'll take back to council and say, here's the pros and cons of doing this annexation. Here's what it's going to do. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's how many housing units we might be able to get in. Here's what industry we might be able to get in. Whatever those impacts are, they'll do that full report. They'll give it back to the city council, at which time the city council would then vote to either do it or to not do it. Or in the case of some of them, or put it on hold in perpetual. There's one Meridian Klein Kelly annexation that District 4 is also a party to, that's been on hold, I think, for a decade or more. I think it was on hold before I started working at the county. I think for the two of you that can remember when I started working at the county. So that's where the process is at. As a fire department, I have provided comments to the planning department that were basically, hey, if we annex it, right now, the area that they're talking about is serviced by District 4 through their contract with North Whatcom out of Station 12. If we annex that area, our intention would be that Station 12 continue to provide services in that area, and either through our auto aid agreement or through some other kind of arrangement, that they would still provide those frontline services out there. We have some concerns on the fire prevention side of our house. This is just some longstanding. Bellingham is understaffed our fire marshal's office, and so we've also put in there that we would need some additional help there. So that's kind of where we're at now. In there, we also called out the 1997 agreement that says if we annex that area, we would pay whatever the loss of revenue to District 4 is. We would pay that loss of revenue to District 4 for 3 years. And then I think I also finished up in there that District 4 is currently in a contractual relationship with North Wacom, and there is the possibility that District 4 might want to change who they're in a contractual relationship with. And kind of left it open-ended there. But really that at the end of the day, it doesn't, whether it's North Wacom or District 21 contracting with District 4, or whether it's City of Bellingham contracting with District 4, it's still going to be District 4 operating that fire station, and that fire station continuing to serve the people that it was built for, or the people that live in that area. So that's kind of where we are in that process. And I will on the impact, the financial impact piece, also just kind of walk you through how that works when we do have an annexation. So in the first year of the annexation, a letter goes over to the assessor's office, and basically the short version is, hey, this money that would normally be collected by District 4 from this area, divert that over to the city. So in the first year, the district does actually lose that revenue, and instead that revenue gets replaced by, we basically, Bellingham Fire Department pays that back to you under our 1997 agreement. In the second year, the second and third year, we still make those payments. So let's say the loss of revenue was $100,000. We're still going to pay you all 3 years the loss of revenue. But the reality of it is with your, you guys are so far under the $1.50 cap that not only will you get that 100,000 in the second and third year from the city, but you could actually still collect the full amount that you collected the previous year, because when that revenue goes away, it doesn't change your highest lawful levy amount. It's kind of bizarre how that works, but if that makes any sense to you, if you guys collected $2.5 million this year, a year later, you'll still be able to take $2.5 million plus 1%, would be the max you could take. So the revenue, the 3-year rollout that's in the 97 agreement was always meant to be able to give districts enough time to stay stable if they lost revenue to the city. But the reality of it is, and I speak this as the chief of Fire District 8 who went through this here not too long ago. Actually, in the second and third years, we actually brought in more revenue the second and third years because we were able to levy our normal amount plus then get the payment from the city. So that's kind of what I've got for you, just kind of the status of where we're at, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Bill, what happens after year 3?
Well, again, hopefully by year 3, the departments again still have, I mean, you're able to advance your revenue enough to collect that amount that you were like it never happened, basically. Through that increase. As far as how the revenue looks, yeah.
What was my question? Um, Bill, is it an unusual scenario to have a fire hall inside the city limits, but run by somebody other than a city entity? Is that a little bit unusual?
Surprisingly, no. So there is what is now I think it's a Kids World on Home Road there. If you can think of Bakerview and Northwest.
Yeah.
And Home Road kind of goes back the old Jerry Chambers back way and to the north. So that Kids World that's there is actually a Fire District 8 fire station, or was a Fire District 8 fire station that operated inside the city limits for a number of years before they shut it down and moved out of it and sold it off. And actually, the Bakerview and James Street, District 4's fire station that was Bakerview and James Street, operated for a while inside the city limits. After the Bakerview James annexation, they operated there for a little while. I mean, ultimately that was when they purchased the property out on Smith Road and sold that. But it's not unheard of. It's not super common, but it's not unheard of. Both of those scenarios happen. And I think the other big difference though now versus then too is that, when those were happening, both those stations, District 4 Station 3 and what was originally District 8 Station 2, I believe, both of those stations were all volunteer stations, right? And the volunteers didn't care where the city lines were. The stations were located more on where the volunteers lived than they did on actual providing services out. And both, so here, Station 12 was sited in a spot where we all agreed back in the 90s was a good site for a station that would serve that community going forward. Station 21 up in Geneva, and I know that one just from being on this District 2 side of it back in the day. Station 21 in Geneva sited the same way. We sited those buildings and we built them so that they would serve that community regardless of whether it was city or county jurisdiction. We built them in those locations so that they were best suited for the overall picture of the needs of the community. So I know down in King County, it's you get into especially like the east side kind of metro area there, Bothell, Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond. You do see a lot of that where, all the lines are erased as far as response goes, and the closest units go regardless of whose jurisdiction it is. And as annexations happen, it really doesn't change that model. And in fact, I believe the city of Redmond also operates a fire district down there, and I believe one of their stations is actually in the city of Bellevue now, and it's still operating that way today. I mean, it's been in for a while and probably a decade or better, and they're still operating that way.
Okay, great.
Station 72, where I work, has actually been annexed into the city of Linden. So it's
Yeah, forgot about that one.
So as far as who provides coverage, sorry, Tim, did you have a question?
No, go ahead, Steve.
So Bill, as far as who provides primary coverage, maybe this is a silly question. I'm just trying to map it in my mind. So the city annexes that area, and then does that area then become the primary responsibility of the Bellingham Fire Department? And we would respond to that area under mutual aid if you were not able to? Is that,
Well,
that's
we actually have an automatic aid agreement in place already, right? That says we're gonna send the closest fire truck or aid car regardless of jurisdiction.
mhm.
So and I'm gonna pick on your house, Steve, because I know where you guys are on Britain there. No matter who is operating that station, Station 12 will still be the first station to respond down to your place on Britain Road. Whether that's and really, and again, this was some of the smart planning we did in the 90s when we sited these stations and said, hey, it's going to serve the area. It's not that it serves District 4 or that it serves BFD. What will change? So what's funny is the run card or the order of what stations go there won't change. If it annexed tomorrow, that wouldn't change at all. The only thing that would change is instead of getting the North Wacom battalion chief and writing a North Wacom fire report, you'll get the Bellingham battalion chief and we'll write a Bellingham fire report. But as far as the first response and that entry level service, that does not change. Now I'm saying this, but I'm also, very cognizant of the fact, again, at some point, um, whether you stay in a contractual relationship with North Wacom or you decide that it makes more sense to be in a contractual relationship with South Wacom or Fire District 1 or the city of Bellingham, whoever it is, that to me, that's a different conversation to some extent, because it really doesn't really matter on the response end. As long as whoever is running that is we're operating the same level of service. And that was part of the auto aid agreement, was the agreement that you would staff that station 24 hours a day with a trained captain, a trained driver, and a trained firefighter. And so as long as we're all meeting those level of service, yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're coming from a Bellingham station or a District 4 station or a District 21 station. We know that we've set this bar. This is the level of service that we get, and yeah.
Okay.
That's something that that's been in place for years now. With and it's District 21, District 4, District 7, and City of Bellingham with that auto aid agreement, where really we've dropped the borders between those government entities. Its closest unit responds and most needed unit responds. So, for example, this morning, Chief Hewitt, the city's ladder truck was on a call. They had a fire that required a ladder truck, and District 7's crew that crews their ladder truck was out on another call, so it pulled Station 63, which ladder 63, down to the city to respond. So it grabs the next needed unit, no matter where they're located in the county. Does that affect response time? Sometimes, but closest unit goes is what we're saying.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter where you go or who you pay taxes to.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I will acknowledge too that very much in our auto aid agreement, it does talk about the fact that our auto aid agreement does not relieve us of our responsibilities to work with District 4 over annexation issues. So I want to be clear, like, I'm not sitting back going, hey, I'm getting I'm getting free service in here. That does not relieve us from negotiating over the impacts of annexations. Again, this one's small enough that the 97 agreement talks about, or it's big enough that it triggers that 3-year point. So we got some guidance to work from. The other thing that's kind of out there is that in that 97 agreement is the cumulative effects of all annexations. And this is the one that you've probably heard both me and Chief Vanderveen say that unfortunately in 97, nobody really identified how we were going to calculate that. And there's a couple different methods, and one of the methods you'll never get to 60%. One of the methods we got to 60% a long time ago. And one of the methods we're probably right on the border. So that's the other piece. So really, but I think we're in a position where I mean, there's two things. One, I'm not sure whether or not this annexation is going to get legs or not. There's while the fire department stuff I feel is easily within our grasp because of our existing agreements. There the need for additional law enforcement resources and street and other infrastructure resources for the amount of housing units that the city would gain, I don't know if it's going to pencil out. I'm not saying it's not going to, but I don't know I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see when the study comes out.
So Chief, going back to the planning review process, um, do you have a sense of how long of a process this is? And do they actually come to you and ask you for like a thumbs up or thumbs down from a fire department perspective?
Yeah, so they came to us and they came to every department head in the city and said, send us your concerns over the annexation and what the impacts would be. And we had a deadline, and I'm looking the memo that I sent them was August 5th. And I'm trying to remember because I had some vacation in August and I had a deadline that was happening somewhere in that vacation. So I think back by the end of August, they should have had all of those inputs from the department heads. And then the planners are currently putting all those inputs into one big document. Usually when they get that big document, they'll send a draft back out to the department heads. I have not seen that draft come back out. So, as far as timeline for when they'll get in front of council, I'm not sure if they'll make it this year, if they'll make it in front of them in like November timeframe. I think there is a timeline in the process where, but we don't do enough of these that I don't have the timelines memorized.
Okay. Are you able to share what your recommendation was, or is that
Well,
confidential at this time?
no, I'm happy to share the document that I sent to the planning department. And I'm gonna, let's see here. Sorry, I got a weird thing that keeps popping up in the middle of my screen there. There we go. I sent it off to Jason to if you can forward it to the commissioners there, but let me just see. Yeah. So again, I don't say thumbs up or thumbs down. I just say, here are the facts. And again, the facts as I told them, we have a current auto aid agreement that uses the closest companies. We have the 1997 agreement that talks about how they're dealt with. And then basically go on to say that, that area is currently served by Station 12, would continue to be served that way, and that the resources there meet our current level of service standard for the city. Called out the fact that that prevention wise, we don't have enough inspectors to handle it, but that's kind of separate from that's more about us and the county fire marshal than us in District 4. Also just identified that, it is more than 5%, so that triggers the 3-year. And actually the number in there as it stands right now is 208,000 a year is actually what the impact would be. Hey, there you go. Yeah, and so the first paragraph is just identifying, like I said, that auto aid agreement, and that we have these two agreements. The second one talks about, you guys meeting the level of service, and that station meets our needs and the life safety issues. The last one's kind of the kicker, though. That third paragraph is really the kicker, which is, it is going to be more than 5%. So that triggers the 3-year payout. And then just calling it out that this annexation may also trigger the commissioners to request us to contract for service. And that it's unclear how you guys would want to proceed on that. But I'm also saying the amount of revenue that you guys are collecting would more than likely be enough to pay for us to provide services if we were asked. I can tell you my finance folks and my council are probably not going to believe that last sentence. Because there's a lot of misunderstanding about the contract for service with District 8 and how that all evolved. And there were some costs that we didn't anticipate that hit after we merged District 8 in with, or did the functional consolidation, I should say. With District 8, there were costs that we didn't envision. District 8 still had a viable volunteer/part-time program that we were counting on to continue that didn't continue. And so that's just to say that my finance folks and our council are a little gun shy of consolidation right now, or contracting for services, because it's taken quite a bit of time for us to get to where District 8 is really paying the full freight on their contract for service. So
I've sent everybody a copy of this email, or forwarded this email from Chief Hewitt to each of you as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Chief Hewitt, Mark, or Steve?
No, not at this time. Thanks, Chief.
all right, and as I hear more too, I mean, Chief Vanderveen and I are in contact fairly regularly, and as we hear more, we'll certainly share that along. And if you guys have questions too in between meetings, don't hesitate to reach out. So
Yeah, thank you for the update.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
all right.
Thanks, Chief Hewitt. Appreciate you coming in and explaining all that.
Yeah, thanks for putting me at the top of the list. So I get a 20-minute break before the next meeting. So
Very good. Thanks
see y'all
again.
later. Jason, I'll see you at 3.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Bell's on.
All right. Do we want to save any other discussion for back in the regular unfinished business agenda where we had that item, or anyone have any more discussion at this point?
Just a
Okay.
comment that obviously, and then I know that wasn't intentional in his memo there to the city, but the annexation team, but yeah, that it didn't really imply that we would have the full amount of our revenue to spend on a contract with the city, but of course, we have constituents that are many constituents outside of that annexation that funding needs to support. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting process that we go through here. So
yeah, agreed. Okay, well then why don't we at this point go back to our agenda, and next item up would be the public comment period. Do we have anyone joining us today, Chief, for public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, then I will open and close the public comment period at 12:32. And we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of the consent agenda. All matters within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Board of Commissioners for review, are considered routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the board with no separate discussion. If a separate discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request. And this month on the consent agenda, we have the meeting minutes from our last board meeting, August 12th, 2024. We have staff reports. We have a financial report, which shows total revenues in August of $15,148.42 and total expenditures for September of $703,893. We also have voucher payroll and benefits with direct deposit payroll of $644, a monthly expenditure voucher of $703,249. So does anyone have an item they'd like to pull out and discuss separately from the consent agenda? Okay.
I'd move
In that
to
case-
approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second
Commissioner
that
Green.
motion.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. So that passes. We'll move on to unfinished business. So we had our discussion with Chief Hewitt, and I imagine we'll be having more discussions about this. I would like the opportunity to kind of read through that memo a little bit more. Next item up was the Britton Loop Station 12 exterior project. And Chief, do you have any comments about that today?
No, we're continuing to work on that. We've kind of encountered some hiccups internally here, but plan to get that kind of back on track. And hopefully with summer being over, we can get some people that do exterior work to come take a look and actually bid on it. So that will be the goal for the October meeting, is to have a couple bids so we can get some updated numbers.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that? All right. Fire engine bid.
Same thing. Wait for one more company to get back to us, and October will be the goal.
Okay, very good. No other comments? In that case, we'll move on to new, and we have the Whatcom County Mutual Aid Agreement that she forwarded to us a couple weeks ago. That requires us to review and approve today, I believe.
Yes, that's just it's the boilerplate agreement. It's been in place for a long time. This is just an updated version of it. We are the last district to review and hopefully sign it. So I'm hopeful that it will pass today. And it just memorializes things we do every day with mutual aid countywide.
Can I have a motion to approve the county mutual aid agreement?
Yeah, I would move to approve the Whatcom County Mutual Aid Agreement.
And I would second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion about the agreement?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so that passes. And that takes us to correspondence. I did not see any new correspondence other than the response to the resident that we talked about last month.
Yeah, was there a page cut out of here on our packet? It sort of just, or was that the entire?
There are a few lines that were cut
Oh.
off the end of that.
Okay, I figured it didn't.
Sorry about that. I will forward that in its, or I or Jenny will forward that in its entirety. I didn't realize it had been cut off.
Yeah, no worries. I figured because it just sort of stopped. So.
Yeah. No, it wasn't quite that abrupt.
Right.
So,
I figured you would have at least signed off, Tim. So yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that would be great if we could get the rest of that in there.
Okay.
And I'm not aware of any other correspondence for us to
Oh, sir.
address this month. Okay. And we'll move on to next item announcement. We have a board meeting planned for the 15th of October, which is actually a Tuesday next month. How does that look on people's schedule?
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Can you remind me, I mean, yeah, no, never mind. I was thinking of a different board. Yeah, I'll put that in right now.
You're on too many boards.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Okay, good. Well, that looks good to me as well. So 15th for our next board meeting. And then we have an item about a District 21 joint planning meeting.
Yeah, as you may be aware, District 21, with the levy failure, we're kind of been doing some Saturday planning sessions, and the District 21 board would like to invite you to October 12th at Station 61 in Blaine on Odell Road, starting at 9 a.m. To have a joint planning session. The morning piece will be the District 21 attorney coming to talk to us about some subjects that the District 21 commissioners and I have asked for some more research and a legal opinion on. And then after that would be discussions between both boards about just bringing you up to date where District 21 is, what their thoughts are about how we're dealing with our issues in District 21. One thing that I can make abundant, just so you, in case you're wondering, nothing's changing for District 4. District 4, their voters paid, they're paying full vote, so that's what they get. The changes are happening in District 21. They just want you to be aware of them.
So if I heard you say it's Saturday, October 12th, I'll be in the air coming back from Florida. So I'll unfortunately not be able to be there for that.
Okay. I would say I'm sorry, but you're coming back from Florida, so.
Yeah.
My calendar looks clear, so I should be able to be there.
Yeah, very good. I'm similar situation as Commissioner Land. I'll be flying back from Texas that day.
Okay.
I will definitely be there.
Great.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Cooley.
Yeah, we'll be leaning on you, Steve, as usual.
Well, not lately, but thank you.
Okay. Agenda items for our next meeting. Does anyone have anything that you would like on the agenda
I just, carry over again from last month and this meeting, just keep our foot on the gas on the building renovation update and the fire truck. And obviously we'd need, an update on whatever happened at the joint meeting.
As well as the meeting that the chief's going to today about the study. We'll probably want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, the county
Okay.
consolidation study, the kickoff meeting is today. I'll be there representing both 4 and 21, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All sounds good. Signing of documents. We have documents at the station for us today,
Yes, sir.
Chief.
Yep.
Okay.
And a pen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the little things.
Very good. Anything else for the good of the order?
You did a great job, Tim.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for chairing this one.
Absolutely. Happy to help out. On that case, we'll consider ourselves adjourned.
If you all
Yes,
could
sir.
shoot me a text once you get doc signed.
Yep.
Will do.
That'd be great. Commissioner
Yeah.
Cooley, if you need assistance with that, let me know.
I've got a ride, so thank
Okay.
you. Thank you
Sounds
for that.
good.
But it will be
All
about
right.
30 or 4. So
Okay.
good day,
Very
everybody.
good.